Morning guys, it's a Sunday morning, sunny Banbury near Oxford. We've met up with Dom and Missy. They've come back to the UK from their recent trips around Europe, and we've just on the start of a couple of week trip up into Scotland. We've got a few friends to pop up there and see. We've taken a couple of weeks off of work just to have a bit of a break, chill out, relax, meet up with some old friends. And this is the start of our 2 weeks, and it's been absolutely fantastic to meet up again with Dom, Missy, Rosie and all their pets and reminisce over our recent travels through Europe, and they've been telling us some stories about their trips, so it's been absolutely fantastic to catch up with these guys. Looking forward to a few more days chill out with them. So I'll just let you know where we are. We're on a little campsite called Barnstones campsite in Great Bourton, which is just outside Banbury. It's a nice little campsite. I think in these kind of situations with the current, COVID lockdown, well not lockdown, but obviously restrictions on travel and stuff like that, and going out and socialising and whatever, kind of prefer just to be on a campsite at the moment. This one's really reasonable. It's only £15 a night. Got all the services, hot showers, and even electric if you want it as well, so it's really not bad, and it's safe and secure. There's a gated sort of entrance here, so you can only get onto the site if you've booked in anyway. And I'll just spin round because it's quite busy. There's still a lot of people who would probably be out in Europe by now, are staying in the UK. And I'll spin round. There's a little play area, children's play area there, and you can probably see behind me there's a few more vans. But we're slowly making our way up to Scotland. I've been looking on Instagram and there's quite a few other guys up there, so no doubt we'll bump into a few old friends and hopefully some new friends as well. But it's a lovely little site here, quiet little village. Excuse the helicopter going over, that's probably going to ruin my audio. But there's just one little pub in the village which is walking distance, the Bell. Nice little quiet little place this, lovely little spot. So just beyond those trees there is a dedicated dog walking area where you can exercise your dogs. This is like their little rally field. They have got a little caravan club rally here at the moment. These guys are all part of a group. You can hear the road in the distance there, but it's Monday today, so you've got work traffic and so forth. At the weekend it was really super quiet here. Really well kept site this, really nice and clean. There's some more vans here parked in the trees here, and really reasonable. I mean, £15 a night for all your services included, not bad at all. So here's the little shower block. There's a kitchen area just there for washing all your dishes and that. The centre part goes into the toilets and showers, and then there's a little Elson chemical toilet cleaning point there as well. And there is also a laundry here with a couple of domestic machines in, so you can do your washing, but really super clean facilities. I just want to say it's just great to see you guys. It's been a long time, isn't it, since we've seen you?
It has, yeah.
It feels like absolutely ages. So
was it the end of January that we bumped into you at Tarifa?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just after Christmas when we headed down that way with John and Mandy.
Yeah. So you came over to our van,
and then we stayed together all the way along the south coast of Portugal, and then all up that west coast of Portugal, and then finally departed at the Luna Bar, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, we left you to go back to England at the beginning of March because we had a bit of work on.
Yeah.
And then the day after we finished our work, lockdown started.
Yeah.
So you were stuck in
Portugal.
We
were going to sort of try and hang on, obviously, because Quirky was going to come about.
We were going to meet up at Quirky, weren't we?
Yeah.
And then we were going to go off from Quirky and do something else.
So yeah, it's been a fair old time, isn't it? Obviously, we haven't ventured back out since lockdown. We've literally sort of stood still for quite a while. Obviously, I've been working most of it, but you guys have been back out, haven't you?
We have, yeah. So after we got stuck, for want of a better word, in the UK when lockdown hit, a couple of days after we'd done our work, we spent I think it was about 100 days on my mum's drive. Stayed living in the van
when it was proper lockdown. Yeah.
And my mum's in her 80s, so she was like completely isolating. So we were doing the same to keep her safe. And we did lots of work on the van to try and keep busy.
Yeah, yeah.
Lots of work to try and keep busy, and then slowly kind of went slightly deranged with the lack of travelling.
I think we were in the same position because we stayed on the drive in the van literally for a couple of months without actually going, other than going to get food and whatever. And it's the same as everybody else.
Yeah, same as everyone else. So we were kind of waiting. You know, at the beginning of lockdown, you had this kind of fairy tale image that it would just all disappear a few weeks later, and then it kind of went on and got more serious. But we, being perhaps slightly crazy, we decided as soon as lockdown was kind of loosening or ended, if that was coming, that we would then go off and travel if we were allowed to do so, either in the UK.
So pretty much as soon as the borders were back open and they were allowing people to go over.
And we had a few curved balls because literally we were aware from the government announcement that lockdown was probably going to end and it was going to loosen in some fashion. And then the staycation stuff was pushed by Boris.
Yeah.
We decided, because France had opened up, that we would go back to France and see if we could get to Spain. And then
did you meet many other Brits out there, or was it?
Well, it was worse than that, because before we left, so we'd been on my mum's drive for this 100 days or so. So we planned to go a few days after lockdown was ended, and then that coincided with the MOT of my van,
right,
which I thought would just fly through. So put it in for service, had the MOT, and then despite having the service, it massively failed the MOT. Loads of advisories, loads. So then we had to wait a week for the garage to have a space to fit us in, because it was a full two-day job. So luckily we hadn't booked anything, so we got the work done. Lost a couple of grand getting the work done.
Trouble is though, like with the investment that you put in the rest of the van, you can't do anything else. Can you?
So it was just, it's like, if you live in a house and your boiler blows up in winter, you get a new boiler, or you get your boiler serviced.
You don't move that into another house, do you?
No. So we had all the work done, which was literally $2,000.
Wow.
So it was gearbox out, half the engine out. Completely had to have the engine clean, new flywheel fitted, new clutch. All the brake lines had corroded, so we had new brake lines.
So it was a big old job.
New pads, so it was a load of work. So that was done, and then we set off like 2 weeks after lockdown. Then once that work was done, and went to Folkestone to go on the tunnel. And I know you said you've had lots of people asking. I see lots of people asking, what's it like?
I mean, just curious from our own perspective, because obviously, we're interested in possibly going back out at some stage, and it's just that fear and of the unknown about what's it like, what are the border crossings like, what's the reception like when you got there, and all that kind of. And was there many other people there? So all them kind of questions,
I mean, online it was a complete mix. So you had half the people going, travel great, get out, you're in your van, you can be safe. The other half going, no, stay home, isolate, all that kind of thing. So anyway, we made a decision for us that we were going to keep ourselves to ourselves, and we thought it can't be less safe than what we were doing in the UK.
Well, if anything, I mean, you're isolating in your own vehicle, and the only time that you interact with people is when you go shopping and things like that. And so it's even better, I would say, than like a package holiday or something like that. You're not mingling with other people, are you?
No. So we filled up the van with food as if it was all normal, and then we headed off to Folkestone. We arrived at the tunnel, and because there was less traffic on the road, it's a bit of a horrendous journey from my mum's to Folkestone normally. So we ended up getting to the tunnel like 2.5 hours early.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my God, we're going to have to sit here for 2.5 hours. But literally drove in. They waved us through, and literally 5 minutes after arriving at Folkestone, we were on the train, and it left. Yeah. So it took us from literally coming off the M20.
I guess it was pretty quiet then, was it?
Yeah, it was pretty quiet. There was, a usual. There was, cars with tents on. You could see they were going off camping. Maybe there was a few mohos, but it was pretty empty, really. Yeah. And literally 40 minutes after we arrived at Folkestone, we were in Calais. No checks, no code information,
Okay.
nothing to say you can't.
So did you had the normal passport
So
check?
it was exactly the same as normal,
Yeah.
but just super fast. So literally drove into the tunnel, had our passports checked.
Yeah.
5 minutes later on the train. 5 minutes later the train left.
And then nothing the other end, you just
And
get
then
off and
in
drive.
France, we just drove off
Yeah.
like normal,
Yeah.
and we were in France.
Right.
But there was apart from no checks, there was nothing, no information, no what you must or mustn't do. It was just completely as if there was no COVID
Yeah,
at
it's
all.
crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Drove into France, and then driving through France, it was exactly the same as normal.
As before.
Yeah, so there was no obvious police present, no army, no nothing.
Sure. Yeah.
And
And then in terms of like, were all the airs open and stuff like that, and or did you wild camp most of it?
we did predominantly wild camping. We did use airs, but we only went to, we didn't use anything vaguely busy or town car parky.
Yeah,
we were
sure.
always out of the way,
Yeah.
which we do anyway.
Yeah.
But we decided, well, being sensible, that we just wanted to stay away from people as much as possible.
Yeah.
Quite like that anyway.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So when you drove through a little town, everyone was wearing masks. So we changed our kind of. We would usually just go shopping when we felt like it. Generally motivated by the amount of snacks that we didn't have in the van. So we decided we're not going to do that. A, because we wanted to spend less money because we were on a tighter budget.
Yeah.
B, because we didn't want to be putting ourselves in the situation where we were going to supermarkets 3 times a week unnecessarily.
Sure.
So we went once a week to the supermarket, masks on.
Yeah, just to minimise your contact and everything
So
else.
literally the only contact we had was once a week.
Yeah.
One of us would go in the supermarket.
Sure.
We used to go in together.
And that's no different to you being
No,
here anyway,
no.
is it? I mean, everybody's got their own personal protection and whatever. You're distancing from people, so you're not really you're not putting anybody at risk or yourself any more than you would do if you was isolating here.
No.
Would you?
And if anything, I think I felt it was probably less risk because
sure.
the supermarkets were quiet.
Yeah.
Generally, it was a lot quieter out, and because we weren't parking anywhere with other people.
It does tend to be less populated in Europe anyway,
Yeah,
generally, doesn't it?
yeah,
So you do see less people, don't you? It's not as busy as it is here in the UK.
No.
That's what we find anyway.
So even 2 weeks after the English lockdown had ended, everything in France was open. So all the airs were open. If you wanted a campsite, they were all open.
Okay, yeah.
All the toilets, electric points, water, if you were going to an air or a campsite, were all open
Yeah,
as
'cause that's the
normal.
one thing we found, which is one of the reasons why we came back, because a lot of the public toilets were shut, locked.
Yeah.
The campsites you pull up to, and there was a chain on the gate. They were not allowing any new people to go in, and even some of the airs and the services, the motorhome service points, even at the petrol stations and things like that, they were closed.
Yeah.
So it was really making it difficult to camp. But all of that was all back open, and
I think it was the same. The French government were obviously trying to encourage the economy, so they'd said to the French people, have a holiday. Obviously, motorhoming is quite a big thing in France.
Yeah.
It's quite common.
massive,
Loads of
isn't it?
French motorhomes. So they basically said to the French, go out, have a holiday, stay in an air, campsite, whatever. So everything reopened pretty fast.
And did you see many other Brits doing the same? Was there many Brit motorhomers or camper vans? Or
I mean, it changed because at the beginning, when obviously we were a few weeks out of lockdown, it was a lot quieter. I think while people, whether they were from whatever country they were from, got their head around the fact that should they travel, could they travel, would stuff be open? So when we arrived, it was very, very quiet. Not many motorhomers or vans or anything around.
Fairly close
a few.
to lockdown still, wasn't it?
And then as it went on, obviously more people got confident, perhaps, if that's the right word, and it got busier.
Or see other guys like yourselves.
Yeah. So to start with, we didn't see anybody. We did arrange to meet up with Driving Dee Dee. I think that was about 2 weeks after we left. And we met them at a really beautiful air in the French mountains, and it was just us and Driving Dee Dee at the air.
Okay.
And we went swimming in a lake, and all the locals were there swimming in the lake. It all felt very normal, and you could kind of, dare I say it, pretend like you were in a normal kind of environment.
Of course.
And we just continued to stay sensible. We continued to avoid people wherever possible. Stayed out of the way. It was very nice actually. Weather was great.
Yeah, so kind of
quite
like,
relaxing.
other than it being in the back of your mind,
Yeah.
you were back to almost back to your normal
Yeah.
wild camping and travelling around. And then did you venture further down into Spain and that? Did you go across the border there?
So yeah, because as you know, we work in events. Obviously with COVID there are no events, so normally we would naturally travel down to wherever we were going and then have to reverse to go back to work for a few days. So we didn't have to do that, so we decided we'd stay out for 3 or 4 months. So we took normally we would shoot through France,
Get down to the sun as quick as possible.
Down to the sun. So we decided we'll take a couple of weeks. We had no plan where we were particularly going to end up. We just, we tended to look at nice places to park and then go to those. And then if they were really nice, we'd stay a few days and just it was all very relaxing.
So you tried a few new places than your normal, because obviously I know you've got some nice park ups that you tend to gravitate to, didn't you? But you tried a load of new places this time, did you?
Yeah. I mean, there was a couple of our favourite park ups that we kind of earmarked. We'll go back to them on the way, but all the others were all completely new. So we.
And you've been vlogging your trip as well, haven't you, on YouTube and that? So if any of you guys are interested in watching where these guys have been the last few months, there's all your videos. I'll put a link up here and a link in the description and that. Go and check them out. You can see where they've been the last few months.
So we started, we decided that we would not only do our usual vlogs, but we did a series called 101 Park Ups. So I decided it would be nice to actually document the park up. What was good about it, what was bad, if anything. Do some drone shots so people could see what it was like, and then I put a Google map up and so people could go to the same park up if they wanted to, so they could kind of follow it. And we had a few people saying, "Oh, that looks great, we'll go to that," and they did.
Especially for people as well who are just doing a build or planning the trip or whatever, and never been into Europe and done anything like this. It's quite daunting, and it kind of was for us before we went out there. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know how easy it was going to be, with the wild camping and all the free services and things like that. So it's good from that perspective that you're showing all of that and how simple it is to do this. And
so the only thing that was different really is some the Spanish. We didn't do any beaches in France, so we took a couple of weeks in the central part of France through the Pyrenees. Went to sort of Zaragoza side of the Pyrenees and then shot across to the border. Not the border, to the coast, and then of quite a few of the park ups on the beaches were closed. And that was only at the end of lockdown, because the Spanish had a problem with loads of locals going to the beach and not following the rules. So they closed a lot of the beaches off, or they had stricter rules. So some of the park ups on the beaches were not available to us in our van, but that was only after lockdown, because it was during bathing season, which is the same in Portugal. So they have a bathing season and the rules are different in bathing season to non-bathing season. So bathing season is finished now, so that's all gone, so you can go back to those beaches that were closed. And then the first beach that we parked at in Spain, there was nobody in the car park during the day, apart from loads and loads of police who were very friendly to us. We had a chat with them, no problem with parking. But what they were doing is they were going along the beach and fining Spanish people who weren't following the rules. And the rules were much the same as England, but in a beach context. So it was like, if you were, and a bit silly really, so if you were sat under your parasol, you didn't have to wear a mask. If you were going from your parasol to swim, you didn't have to wear a mask. But if you wanted to, say, hypothetically walk your dog on the beach, not at your parasol, then you had to put your mask on. So it was all a bit silly, because if you can walk from your parasol to the beach without a mask, but you can...
It's just, I suppose, you're potentially walking past other people, I suppose, isn't it?
So that was the only, if you like, negative, but again, that's kind of ended now. So so we've been out for 4 months, give or take.
Because that was one of the things that, again, there was another reason why we came back, because a lot of the park ups where you park on a beach car park or something like that, and it's kind of accepted, as long as you're not taking a mickey and you ain't got all your furniture out and awning out and all that, you get the police come round regularly, just check in, and it's kind of accepted that you can park there. And then it was just when they went into lockdown, I think they took all of the kids out of school, And then all of the locals headed down the beach.
That's right, yeah.
And that first day, the beach was absolutely crammed with locals. Yeah. And then obviously the government thought, oh, hang on a minute, we better get control of this. And then they went into lockdown properly. And the following day, literally, there was nobody on the beach. We were the only people there.
Yeah.
And then the police came round again that day and said, look, guys, they've closed all the beaches now. You're going to have to find somewhere else to park.
Yeah.
But the unfortunate thing was there wasn't any campsites open either. So you either had to go on a proper air, which we did for a couple of days, but then the services started closing down, and then it was just getting more and more difficult to sort of wild camp.
So I think it was kind of the reverse of that, in the sense that obviously Spain had come out of lockdown, but they were in that kind of transitional period of going from full lockdown to less restrictions. So the problem Spain had is, as soon as lockdown ended, because of the way the Spanish work their holidays, a lot of Spanish have the whole of August off.
Yeah.
So what they do is, if they're in Madrid or Barcelona in a flat in the city, for August they all go down the beach, and they usually have a holiday home or a second house or whatever.
Yeah.
So the Spanish had a problem because literally millions of people suddenly left the cities and went to the beaches. So then the beaches were rammed.
Yeah.
So we just made a conscious decision, we won't go to any beach that's near a tourist town. So we were kind of in the middle of places. So we spent ages in Marbella and Benidorm, but nowhere near the tourist area. So we were like 20 minutes away, hundreds of coves.
Secluded little beaches all along that coast.
So the Guardia in quite a lot of the park-ups would come down every day, but what they would do is they'd say, hello, how you doing, do you need anything, everything okay? They were kind of more being helpful. No negativity, no...
No, I must admit, we've never had any problems with any
very
police or anything. Very good, and
but
even in lockdown, when they moved us on, they were really, really good about it, and there was no hassle at all.
So since, obviously, as we've been there quite a long time, nearly 4 months in, so as the time has moved forward, it's become more relaxed. So in the last month of being on beaches, if you went to the supermarket, you put your mask on. If you went to a petrol station, you put your mask on, and so on. But if you're on the beach, generally speaking, no masks, but people being sensible, socially distancing. So if you didn't know somebody, just stay away from them.
Absolutely.
And again, because we were going to remoter places quite often, there might only be a few people there, or maybe 100 people spread out over quite a large beach. So it was really easy to stay distance. We didn't feel at all in any kind of danger from a COVID perspective. It was all very relaxing. So if anyone's worried about going into Spain or France, overall I'd say I felt a lot safer than I did in England, to be honest, because there's just so few people in comparison.
And particularly if you're on wild park-ups and sort of remote beaches and stuff like that, I mean, you wouldn't be anywhere near civilization anyway, and a lot of the time you're parked up on your own.
So as time went on, going back to one of your earlier questions, more people started coming out in vans and motorhomes. So we started seeing a few English people, but that was more by design, because I think all the English people were like, wait, there's nobody here. So English people were contacting us and saying, where are you guys? Do you fancy meeting up? And we basically decided that we'd meet anybody, even if we didn't know them. So we ended up, I think we met 5 or 6 different English people of complete variety, from a single 70-year-old guy right down to a 25-year-old husband and wife with a couple of small kids.
I mean, another point which I know some people will be watching this and thinking, well, you two are not social distancing or whatever, but obviously coming back, you've gone through a whole process of being in a complete isolation coming back, haven't you?
Yeah. So again, I posted about this on Facebook the other day, and there was loads of people kind of knocking me down, saying you can't do that. If you're coming into the UK, you've got to quarantine and so on. So we did a lot of research, and if you actually go into the kind of the government website and kind of go inside it and look at all the information, there is a section, it's a bit buried and it's not even in the right place, but basically it says, I can't remember the exact wording, but if you're in a vehicle you can quarantine in the vehicle in a country before you arrive in England, providing you don't break the quarantine at any point. So we decided, because we're obviously we're now back in England, we only came back a couple of days ago, and we only wanted to be back in England for a couple of weeks, so we didn't want to add on 14 days
basically
sitting in our van, be that somewhere remote in England or on a campsite or on my mum's drive or whatever. So we researched it thoroughly, and we decided that we would quarantine in our van in France, and we obviously had to look at how we could manage that. So obviously the obvious issues were getting water, emptying our toilet, getting food, and so on. So we did 2 weeks shopping the day before we were going to quarantine, and then we couldn't go anywhere for any food. That was it. We got our 2 weeks shopping, so we don't need to leave the van to get shopping. We then went to really quiet and remote areas where we could perhaps get water.
But then obviously making sure that you properly sanitise everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, completely, hand washing, but we had to make sure that we weren't coming into contact with any other people, because then we were breaking the quarantine. So we stayed in our van. We then, instead of like when we were travelling, if we needed diesel, instead of just looking for the nearest garage, we only looked for 24-hour pumps, because then they're always you pay at the pump. So we could then get diesel.
You're not coming into contact with anybody.
You didn't have to go in the shop,
sanitise your credit card and all that sort
pay
of thing.
At the pump, so you get out, pay at the pump, don't see anybody, don't come into contact with anybody, get back in your van.
It's as much as you can do, isn't it?
So we followed the rules. It's perfectly okay to do that. If you check the government website, I can send you the links to
I'll
the
put a link down in the description below. So if you guys are concerned about doing the 14 days quarantine, as long as you're travelling in a vehicle or whatever, you can self-isolate before you actually come back.
So we went 15 days of isolation from the day we did our shopping. 15 days after that, onto the tunnel to come back. We checked again when we were at the tunnel. You have to fill a form out online if you're coming into the UK, so that you can tell the UK government where you're going to be quarantined. So we just said to the lady in the booth, we've already done our quarantine, and she said that's fine. But we filled out the form. And
then on the form, are they asking you questions like where you've travelled or where you've been and things like that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, the form was a bit stupid, really, not being offensive to the UK government, because it didn't have every possible criteria that people might be doing. So it made the assumption that everybody coming into the UK lived in the UK, or had a house in the UK.
Because obviously you guys haven't got, that is your house, isn't it?
So we put that we're of no fixed address, that we've completed our quarantine as per the government guidelines.
I suppose the other thing is the form, on the basis that people are assuming that you've stayed in one location for your holiday, whereas
or assuming that you have a house that you're going back to and you're going to quarantine in your house. So we just filled out the form, said we didn't have a house, we had no fixed address, we lived in our van, we were nomadic people.
Was there any kind of like temperature checks or anything to do with COVID or anything?
No, I mean, it was just almost as if there wasn't a pandemic.
Same rules as you would normally coming through.
So we again, in reverse to when we left. We arrived at Calais. We went through passport control. That was exactly the same as normal. At passport control, they didn't ask anything about where we'd been, had we been in contact, nothing to do with COVID.
We had the same experience.
All the lady said was, have you completed your online form? And we said, we've already quarantined, and that was it. She said, that's fine. So we drove onto the train, drove off the train. So then that goes back to you saying about us not social distancing. So we'd already completed our quarantine. So effectively we haven't got COVID because we've been in isolation for 15 days with no symptoms.
And from our point of view, if you like, we're obviously in the same sort of bubble in terms of we're isolating in our own vehicle. We're staying on a campsite at the moment, but we don't come into contact with anybody else. If we're outside of the van, we're always masked up and social distancing and so forth. And I'm fortunate at the moment where I'm working, we're actually being tested every 2 weeks. The company that I'm working for has actually funded the COVID test, so every couple of weeks I'm having a test as well. So I felt, personally, no problems with meeting you guys from our point of view, and obviously you've done whatever you could as well, so No, but it's nice to see you, mate, apart from anything else.
It is, yeah,
Been
it's
looking
been
forward
lovely,
to
yeah,
this
yeah,
for a
yeah.
while, so we've had a couple of nights here on this lovely little campsite and
Yeah, it's been very peaceful, isn't it?
had a few laughs. Yeah, it's been brilliant. Yeah, it's been really good. Yeah, so just to reiterate, I'll put Dom and Missy's details in the description below. Please do check out their channel. You know, that it's brilliant what you guys are doing. It's different because I think, you know, for people who've got quite a bigger family, us it's easy, I think, with 2 people, but you've got quite a lot of people in your van. So for other people that have got family or kids or whatever, it's interesting to watch how you manage all of that. Yeah. And just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up on what we're doing and why we're here, we've taken a couple of weeks off the project that I'm sort of running at the moment, just to take a bit of a break, as you do. And this is the start of our sort of fortnight sort of holiday, if you like. So we're going to be vlogging our experiences on this trip in the UK and what it's like to travel currently, you know, post lockdown. So we're on this little campsite here just outside Banbury. I've shown you guys around the campsite here. Lovely little spot actually, and quite reasonable, to be honest, with the services
very nice.
they've got here. Yeah,
Lovely facilities.
very good setup. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just continue travelling north up the west coast of England, sort of through the Lake District, through the peaks, and then head up towards Scotland. I know a few of our other friends are already up in Scotland. I've seen their videos already. So yeah, we'll keep vlogging. It won't be sort of daily, but every couple of days I'll try and put something out there for you guys, show you where we are and what the situation's like and where we're parked up and so forth. So it should be good.
I look forward to following.
Yeah.
It's been a while since you put a video out, isn't it?
It has been a little while. I have been busy. Yeah, so look forward to some more content, guys. And if you're not subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this video, and look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot, Dom.
My pleasure.
Cheers,
Thank you.
mate. Thank you.